In all of Seoul, people feared one man without him ever raising his voice. Quan Lee, CEO of the powerful LQ Holdings. Cold eyes, tailored black suits. A man who never smiled in photographs and barely spoke in meetings unless necessary. Employees trembled when he simply looked at them. The media called him the silent devil of Seoul. And somehow, he agreed to marry Sabrina. Welcome to the Tales Unsaid channel, where you can watch different Afro-Korean mini-dramas. To watch more videos, please subscribe. Nobody understood why. Especially Sabrina herself. She sat on the balcony of their wedding reception, heels abandoned somewhere inside the ballroom, laughing while her cousins James and Walter argued over who ate more cake. "You embarrassed us," Walter groaned dramatically. James pointed at Sabrina. She danced to Afrobeats in front of Korean billionaires. They looked bored. Sabrina defended herself. "I saved the wedding." Her laughter rang through the night. Bright, warm, alive. And inside the ballroom, Quan Lee stood near the glass wall, silently watching her. His expression never changed, but his eyes lingered. Sabrina noticed. That was the problem. She was 23, too young for this world of contracts and silent dinners, too alive for a husband who moved like a ghost. The marriage had happened quickly, through business ties, family arrangements, and reasons nobody explained properly to her. Quan accepted without objection. That alone shocked everyone, because Quan Lee hated people, especially women. Yet he married Sabrina without resistance. And after the wedding, he brought her to the enormous penthouse apartment overlooking the Han River. Beautiful, luxurious, cold. There were rules. The West Wing was private. His office was not to be entered. And there was one room at the end of the hallway, always locked. Sabrina noticed it the first night. "What's inside?" she asked casually. Quan adjusted his cufflinks. "Nothing important." His tone ended the conversation. Days passed strangely. Quan left early, returned late, ate dinner in silence. Sometimes he stared at Sabrina as though he wanted to say something, then walked away instead. No affection, no warmth, no husband. Sabrina tried at first. "Do you like ramen?" Silence. "Should we watch a movie?" "No." "You smile in your sleep?" "No." "You're scary, you know that?" A pause. "Good." That irritated her. "Wow. You're proud of it." He looked at her once before leaving the room, and for the first time she thought she saw sadness in his eyes. So Sabrina stopped trying. If her husband wanted distance, fine. She built her own happiness. James and Walter practically lived in the apartment now, filling it with noise and chaos. They cooked terrible food, played music loudly, dragged Sabrina shopping at midnight. Walter flirted with every woman in Seoul. James treated Sabrina like a princess. And somehow the lifeless apartment began to breathe again. Sometimes Sabrina caught Quan standing upstairs silently listening to their laughter. But he never joined, never smiled, never stayed. One rainy evening, Sabrina entered the library looking for wine. Instead, she found an old photograph hidden inside a book. Quan Lee, smiling, actually smiling, beside a woman, beautiful, elegant, Korean. Her hand rested against his chest. At the back of the photo was one name, Yuna, and beneath it, "Forever mine." Sabrina froze. That night she searched, and the truth shattered her. Yuna had died 3 years ago in a car accident. Quan had loved her obsessively. After her death, he changed completely. Stopped smiling, stopped speaking, stopped living. The locked room. It belonged to Yuna. Everything inside remained untouched, like a grave preserved in luxury. Sabrina suddenly understood everything. The distance, the silence, the emptiness. She wasn't a wife. She was simply someone occupying the space beside a broken man. So she left. Not forever. Just left. Without warning. She stayed with James and Walter at their small apartment across the city. For the first time since the wedding, Quan came home to silence. No laughter. No music. No Sabrina. And something inside him panicked. He checked every room. Her clothes gone. Her books missing. The balcony empty. The apartment felt dead again. Worse than before. Much worse. Should I call her? His secretary asked carefully the next day. Quan stared at the untouched coffee in his office. No. But his fingers tightened. She left willingly. He tried to sound calm, detached, unaffected. But that night he stood outside Sabrina's empty room for nearly an hour and slept without rest. 3 days later she returned. Casually, like nothing happened. James carried her bags while Walter complained about traffic. Quan stood near the hallway, expression unreadable. Sabrina avoided his eyes. I'm back. I see that. Silence. Heavy. Painful. He wanted to ask why she left. Why she disappeared. Why the apartment suddenly felt unbearable without her. But Quan Lee had spent years burying emotions until he no longer knew how to speak them aloud. So instead he simply nodded and walked away. And Sabrina watched his back with quiet disappointment. The distance between them grew stranger after that. Not colder. Just fragile. Quan began noticing things. The way Sabrina danced while cooking. How she slept hugging pillows. How she laughed before covering her mouth. How she always waited for him at dinner even when he arrived late. And one night, he heard her crying softly on the balcony. I can't compete with a dead person, she whispered to herself. Quan stopped breathing. For the first time in years, guilt tore through him violently. Days later he unlocked the forbidden room. Sabrina stood frozen at the doorway. Yuna's belongings remained untouched. Photographs. Perfume. Clothes. Memories. A shrine to grief. Quan spoke quietly. She died because of me. Sabrina looked at him. It wasn't your fault. She was driving to meet me. His voice cracked slightly. The last thing I told her was to hurry. Silence filled the room. I thought if I kept everything unchanged, he whispered, she wouldn't disappear completely. Sabrina's eyes softened. But you disappeared too. That sentence destroyed him. After that night, things changed slowly. Painfully. Real. Quan started coming home earlier. He sat beside Sabrina during dinner. Sometimes he listened to her ramble for hours about random things. Sometimes she caught him staring at her lips. Once she made him laugh accidentally. A tiny sound. Barely there. But real. She stared at him in shock. Oh my God. Quan looked away immediately. Forget it. No, do it again. It won't happen again. It was cute. His ears turned slightly red. And Sabrina fell harder than she wanted to admit. One evening the rain trapped them together during a power outage. The apartment darkened except for candlelight. Walter and James were away visiting relatives. For the first time, it was only them. No walls. No distractions. Sabrina sat near the window wrapped in blankets while thunder shook the sky. Quan approached quietly. You're afraid of storms? A little. He sat beside her. Close. Too close. Her heartbeat stumbled. You left because of Yuna, he said suddenly. Sabrina looked down. I didn't know how to stay. He remained silent for a long moment. Then finally, I was afraid to. She looked at him. If I loved you, his voice lowered, and lost you too, I wouldn't survive it. Sabrina's eyes filled instantly, and something inside Quan finally broke open. Years of grief, loneliness, punishment, all collapsing at once. He touched her face carefully like she might disappear. Sabrina leaned into his hand immediately, and Quan kissed her, slowly at first, then desperately, like a starving man learning warmth again. That night changed everything. Not rushed, not perfect, real. Their intimacy unfolded with the aching emotional intensity of two lonely people finally choosing each other over their pain. Quan held Sabrina like she was something sacred, not replacement, not distraction. Her. Only her. And Sabrina realized the cold man everyone feared had simply been drowning for years. Afterward, she rested against his chest while rain continued outside. Quan brushed his fingers through her curls quietly. "I don't know how to be normal," he admitted. She smiled sleepily. "Good." He looked down. "I like you better like this." For the first time in years, Quan Lee smiled without forcing it. And this time, it was because of her. If you like the story, please leave a comment.